Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. We now are basically 2 weeks through the NFL season. We still have the Monday night game tonight, but I took the liberty to write some overreactions for each team, and then I'm going to tell you guys if I agree with those overreactions. Every team in the AFC is what I'm doing right now through 2 weeks. So starting with the AFC North and the Pittsburgh Steelers, Big Ben is officially done. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I don't know what the Steelers were thinking. You know, there was talks preseason that the Steelers wanted Big Ben to come back for another year. The Steelers have a phenomenal defense, but with a quarterback like Big Ben, where he's basically, I mean, let's be honest, he's washed at this point. It happens to all the great quarterbacks. It happened to Breeze last year. It happened to Peyton back in 2016. All quarterbacks become washed. Big Ben is washed. The Steelers do have some decent weapons. Chase Claypool's a good receiver. Juju's a good receiver. Deontay Johnson's a good receiver. Najee Harris, first-round pick, looks to be pretty good and a great defense, but with quarterback, the quarterback will definitely hold you back, and Big Ben, through 2 weeks, I agree. I don't think Big Ben's really going to improve that much. I think at this point, he's completely washed. Moving on to the Bengals, is Joe Burrow really the guy? So last year, Joe Burrow, number one overall pick, had the absurd year at LSU. He played pretty well for a rookie last year before that injury took him down. We saw this preseason, there was some, he was skittish a little bit. People were a little worried about him. I wasn't worried about him. You take a look at him week 2. It is a decent Bears defense, but 3 interceptions. I don't know. To be honest with you, getting him Jamar Chase was a really good job by the Bengals. They easily could have taken a tackle, but it's like if Burrow, he's your franchise guy. He wants the receiver. He wants his guy Jamar Chase. He got him. Jamar Chase has 2 touchdowns through 2 games. But yeah, there are some questions. I think that is an overreaction. I do think Joe Burrow is a franchise quarterback. You got to let these young guys learn and grow and really get through these growing pains as young quarterbacks. The Cleveland Browns need OBJ to truly be elite. I completely agree with this. You watch the Browns, they're just missing that dynamic, deep threat. And receivers now in the NFL are so important, so much more important now than they were 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It's become such a passing league. And the Browns receiving core, obviously now with Jarvis Landry getting injured, but even with Jarvis Landry, it's lacking that dynamic number one receiver. I know Baker's numbers without OBJ are better than they are with OBJ, but if the Browns want to go to the Super Bowl, which is their goal this year, they have a talented enough roster to do that. They need OBJ. And, again, Baker's numbers are better without him, but they need him. They're missing something. Higgins is a nice receiver. DPJ is a good deep threat. Schwartz is really fast. But they're missing that dynamic receiver to go along with that great run game. And the Ravens' passing game holds them back. I'm going to say that's not an overreaction. You look at the Ravens receiving core. Hollywood Brown is a deep threat. They did invest the first-round pick in Rashard Bateman from Minnesota. He's been injured. He hasn't made his NFL debut yet. Mark Andrews is pretty good. Sammy Watkins, decent, maybe solid number 3 wide receiver. But overall, Lamar Jackson's inability to throw the ball consistently down the field is really going to hurt the Ravens. He's great at running. That was a big win last night against the Chiefs. There's going to be a lot of people reacting to that. The Ravens, huge win. You go from 0-2 to 1-1. You beat, you could have been 0-2. Big win, but I do think in a passing league, that passing game and those receivers and that quarterback could hold this team back when it comes to maybe even winning the AFC North against a team like Cleveland. Moving on to the AFC East, we've got the Bills. Josh Allen was a one-season wonder. Josh Allen is really interesting. I've never seen a guy be so inaccurate, like so crazy inaccurate throughout all of college and through his first 2 years in the NFL, and then just randomly, completely flip a switch year 3 and be basically an MVP candidate, maybe even the MVP runner-up. Josh Allen has not looked good through 2 games. They did destroy the Dolphins yesterday, 35-0. Josh Allen really wasn't great in that game. I am going to say this is an overreaction, though, because it's only been 2 games. They still do have Stephon Diggs. The Bill, again, they blew out. It's not like they had to have Josh Allen do a lot yesterday after halftime. They were blowing out the Dolphins with Tua getting injured early in that game. So I'm going to say it's an overreaction. Let's pump the brakes. But Josh Allen's numbers through the first 2 games have not been good. Very inefficient. Kind of interesting to see how that plays out. Moving on to the Jets, Zach Wilson was a major reach at 2. This is definitely an overreaction. You're a rookie quarterback, you go up against Bill Belichick defense. There was a crazy thing where I believe at one point in the game, Zach Wilson had attempted 9 passes and 4 of them were intercepted. I don't know if that's true. It might have been he attempted 12 passes and 4 of them were intercepted. But this is what happens. You're learning with rookies. Whether or not you think Zach Wilson's going to be a bust, you can't, base it off of his second career start against Bill Belichick. So that is an overreaction. The New England Patriots, Mac Jones is the best rookie QB. Yes, many of these rookie QBs are struggling. We saw with Zach Wilson. Trevor Lawrence did not look good again. These are young guys. We got to calm down. I think this is also an overreaction. Mac Jones is really operating a system. You take a look. Justin Fields comes in, struggles as well. Mac Jones is doing a good job. Bill Belichick has given him easier stuff, quick reads, short throws. He's operating the system well in New England, but I would say that's an overreaction considering, calling him the best rookie QB. Moving on, Tua is injury prone, trade for Watson. Well, lucky for Miami, Tua should be back soon, but he did have a rib injury. We know his injuries at Alabama. It's getting a little concerning. And the Dolphins, I think, depending on what happens with Tua could completely just come back and play great, and he's their franchise guy. And I think Tua, if he stays healthy, is a franchise quarterback in this league. But it's this conundrum. Is he going to stay healthy? Should they pull the trigger in the offseason and trade for Deshaun Watson? I think that's a little bit of an overreaction due to, let's see what happens with Tua. You don't want to, let's not write off Tua just yet, but it's an interesting proposition. The AFC South, the Houston Texans need to lose all games. Yes. So if you are a Houston Texans fan, you should be actively rooting for your team to lose. You have zero chance to make the playoffs. You're going to trade Deshaun Watson in the offseason to get more, draft picks. Try and get the number 1 overall pick and draft a quarterback, or it doesn't even have to be a quarterback, but just there's no reason to win football games right now if you are the Houston Texans. If you're a fan of the Texans and you care about their future, you should be rooting for them to lose. What's the point of going 4-12 and getting the 5th overall pick when you could be 1-15 and getting the 1st overall pick to where you could draft a franchise quarterback, or you could trade that 1st overall pick for more assets? You could draft a pass rusher. Guys, if you're a Houston fan, root for your team to lose. I'm telling you, the Colts, Wentz just isn't the guy. This is not an overreaction. I think I've seen enough of Carson Wentz. I really have. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback, and it's unfortunate because I do think he should have won the MVP in 2017 over Tom Brady. No one really talks about that. Tom Brady only threw 32 touchdown passes that year. Wentz got injured. He tore his ACL at the end of it. I really liked Carson Wentz. You watch him out there, you may say, well, it's only been 2 weeks. He's not the guy. He really isn't. I don't think that's an overreaction at all. A.J. Brown is actually the wide receiver 2 behind Julio. So A.J. Brown's had a few quiet weeks. Julio, that was a huge win for the Titans, first of all, against the Seahawks. But Seahawks had won their past 15 home openers. And Julio had a massive game. What did he have? 150, 160, receiving yards, maybe more. A.J. Brown's been quiet for 2 weeks. This is an overreaction, though. Julio's older. He's more injury prone at this point in his career. A.J. Brown is the wide receiver 1 on the Titans. If you are a fantasy fan, A.J. Brown, you could be looking at buying low and selling high on a guy like Julio. That'd be an interesting strategy there. And the Jaguars, Urban doesn't make it past this season. Yeah, that's not an overreaction at all. I think Urban definitely makes it through this season, but the hire of Urban Meyer never made sense for the Jaguars. When you're drafting a guy like Trevor Lawrence, who's your franchise quarterback, you really want to hire a quarterback guru or an offensive mind that's going to make the game easier for a young quarterback. That is not what Urban Meyer is, and his college skills really haven't translated to the NFL at all. He could very easily be a one and done headed back to USC. Moving on to the AFC West, we've got the Raiders. Derek Carr is a top 10 QB in this league. They are 2-0. They've gotten 2 massive wins. The Monday night game against the Ravens, that was a fun game. And then how about in Pittsburgh, Derek Carr playing well against that very good Steelers defense. I'm going to say this is a little bit of an overreaction, though. I like Derek Carr. Derek Carr had 3 years ago. Remember when before the Raiders went to Las Vegas? or Derek Carr they went 12-4. Derek Carr was an MVP candidate. But I'm going to need to see a little bit more. I do like this Raiders team a lot. Henry Ruggs, the deep threat. Waller, we know how good he is at tight end. Hunter Renfrow, the possession guy. We'll see with Josh Jacobs. He's a solid runner. He runs hard. I know he was injured this past week. But I'm going to need to see a little bit more from Derek Carr. But right now, this is really a make or break year. Is Derek Carr truly elite? He needs to go out and prove it. Through 2 games, he's been great, no doubt. But he needs to prove it over an entire season. Moving on to the Chargers, Mike Williams, breakout season, wide receiver 1. Yeah, this is an overreaction. I don't see it with Mike Williams. I think he's a very solid wide receiver 2. But when it comes to Keenan Allen's got that wide receiver 1 locked down. I know Mike Williams has scored a few times the past 2 weeks. People are really hyping him up. He's had a really good start to the season. His target share is probably going to decrease a little, though. I would say the Chargers have thrown the ball a lot the first 2 weeks. I think that is an overreaction. The Chiefs' run game will hold them back. We saw it yesterday. Number 1, the Chiefs just don't like running the football at all, no matter what. Then they finally do run it, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire with a horrific fumble. That reminds me of the Damian Harris fumble week 1 of the Patriots, where it just basically completely cost your team the game. That's why I was really surprised they invested a first-round pick in Clyde Edwards-Helaire into a running back, albeit it was the 30th overall pick, so the last pick of the first round. But yeah, this run game, if you're Mahomes, this is concerning. You have to get the run game going in some form with, I would say, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I know Williams got the 1-yard touchdown run. Fantasy fans were not happy about that. But this is concerning if you're the Chiefs. Really concerning, the run game. You're too pass heavy. You can almost get away with that, though, now in the NFL with how the calls go for all the receivers, the pass interference, things like that. But I will say, when you throw the ball a lot, there's a lot more turnover risk than running the ball. Although that's kind of an oxymoron considering they ran the ball and fumbled. So, but the bottom line is they do need to get their running game. That is not an overreaction. They have run game issues. We've got the Broncos here. Teddy is the future of this franchise. Oh, yeah. Now, this is a complete overreaction. Teddy Bridgewater, though. Let's give some credit to Teddy Bridgewater. He's been phenomenal. Let's give some credit to this Denver Broncos team. How about Cortland Sutton? What did he have, 160 yards week 2? This Denver Broncos defense is firing on all cylinders right now. Really good week 1 against, a mediocre offense in the Giants. Really good week 2 against a rookie quarterback. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. Teddy Bridgewater, though, really good game, but he is more of a journeyman quarterback, kind of a stopgap for a team like Denver. But I am really high on Denver. Even with the Jerry Jeudy injury, they still have a great receiving core. So, guys, those are the official overreactions for every team in the AFC through 2 weeks of the NFL season. We still do have the Monday night game tonight, but that's between 2 NFC teams, guys. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.